the Great Emu War. The emus were relentless. They came in waves, trampling crops and defying all attempts to drive them away. It was like nothing we'd ever seen before. Farmer in Western Australia. In the sweltering heat of Western Australia in 1932, an unlikely and almost absurd conflict erupted that would be remembered as the Great Bird or Emu War. As the world grappled with economic depression and the rumblings of political turmoil, Australia faced an unexpected adversary: thousands of emus, large flightless birds native to the continent, that were wreaking havoc on farmlands. This is the story of an extraordinary and bizarre war between humans and emus. The story begins in the aftermath of World War I, when many Australian soldiers were given land in Western Australia to farm as part of a government resettlement scheme. However, the Great Depression hit hard, and farmers struggled to make ends meet. By 1932, a severe drought had exacerbated the situation, and to make matters worse, approximately 20,000 emus began migrating inland from the coast seeking food and water. These emus found the newly established wheat farms to be a perfect feeding ground. The birds decimated crops, destroying fences and causing widespread chaos. Desperate for a solution, the farmers turned to the government for help. The response was to deploy the military armed with machine guns to combat the avian menace. The call to arms. In November 1932, Major GPW Meredith of the 7th Heavy Battery of the Royal Australian Artillery was tasked with leading the operation. Armed with 2 Lewis machine guns and 10,000 rounds of ammunition, Meredith and his men set out to cull the emu population and protect the farmers' livelihoods.
We thought it would be a straightforward mission: drive the emus into a confined area and eliminate them. But we quickly learned that these birds were far more cunning and resilient than we anticipated. Major GPW Meredith.
The initial engagement took place near Campion, where a large number of emus had been spotted. As the soldiers set up their ambush, the emus proved to be elusive targets. The birds scattered at the sound of gunfire, running at speeds up to 50 kilometers per hour, and the soldiers found it difficult to aim at such fast-moving targets. In the first attempt, only a handful of emus were killed, and the rest escaped unscathed. Realizing that direct confrontation was ineffective, Major Meredith devised new tactics. The soldiers mounted one of the machine guns on a truck, hoping to chase down the emus. However, the rough terrain made aiming impossible, and the birds easily outmaneuvered the vehicle. This approach, too, ended in failure and frustration.
We chased them with trucks, tried to ambush them, but they always found a way to outsmart us. They moved like a well-coordinated army, always a step ahead.
Despite the setbacks, the operation continued for several weeks. The soldiers managed to kill around 1,000 emus, but this was a fraction of the total population, causing the damage. The emus, with their surprising agility and resilience, had effectively won the war. The decision was made to withdraw the military and leave the emus to their domain. In the end, the Great Emu War was declared a failure. The emus had outwitted and outlasted the soldiers, and the government had spent significant resources without achieving the desired outcome. The farmers continued to struggle with the emu problem, and it wasn't until later years that more effective fencing and other measures were implemented to protect the crops.
The emus proved to be more than a match for the machine guns. It was a humbling experience, and one that we can look back on with a mix of humour and awe.
As word of the Great Emu War spread, it took on a life of its own. The media caught wind of the bizarre conflict, and newspapers around the world reported on the absurdity of the situation. Stories of emus outsmarting the military, dodging bullets and even charging headlong into the fray captured the public's imagination. The emus became unlikely folk heroes, symbols of resilience and defiance, aftermath and reflection. Despite the military's withdrawal, the emu problem persisted. Farmers had to find other means to protect their crops, turning to better fencing and other deterrents. The Great Emu War remains a curious footnote in Australian history, a testament to the unexpected challenges that can arise in the battle against nature. We didn't win, but we learned a lot about dealing with wildlife and the limits of military intervention. It was an experience none of us would ever forget. Years later, the story of the Great Emu's War continues to be a source of amusement and wonder. It is remembered with a sense of humor and as a unique chapter in the history of human-animal conflict. The emus, having survived their unlikely war, remain a proud symbol of Australia's unique wildlife. The Great Emus. War serves as a reminder that nature often has the upper hand, and that resilience and adaptability are key to survival, whether you're a human or an emu. Thank you for watching. And don't forget to subscribe and like if you want to see more videos like this.